It's showtime.
Hello and welcome to Musical Lyrical Lingo. We're your hosts, Tim
and LJ. Today and every week we will be discussing musicals, but specifically what they taught us, but not today.
I can't cope. I'm totally fanboying today. Absolutely fanboying.
It's the longest you've ever been quiet. Like you're sitting going, oh, you're like heavy breathing and all.
I'm in a West End dressing room.
What?
In the Savoy Theatre.
What?
With our very special guest today who we have known all of our lives.
I know, and looked up to and just thought she was amazing. And she calls us friends and we're like, what?
And she is amazing and she's right here. And it is Zoe Rainey. Hello, Zoe.
Hi, welcome to the Savoy.
The Savoy Theatre, like what? This is the closest we'll ever get to stardom.
Yeah, and we need to take a picture or else people will not believe it happened.
True.
Plenty of pictures today. So we are in the Savoy with Zoe because Zoe, you are currently in Mean Girls.
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's going so good. It's great. It is a lot of fun. We're about 2 months in now and having an absolute blast.
You've all found your feet now, I
yes.
presume. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. And the audience, you get to know what the audience are reacting to and stuff, and you can kind of start to enjoy it and have a lot of fun.
Brilliant. Well, we'll get on to Mean Girls shortly, but we have known you forever.
Yeah.
How do we know you, Zoe?
We went to McMaster.
Yes!
The greatest stage school in the world.
In the world. And I was thinking on the flight over this morning, I think you're probably the reason I went to McMaster's.
Oh, really?
Because I have a funny I don't know for sure, but I have a funny feeling you and Victoria were already at McMaster's.
Yeah.
And Dad, our
piano.
family would have known your family.
Tried very hard to teach me piano.
I forgot about that as well.
And it is very much not his fault that I cannot play, because he did a very good job.
He tried to teach me too, and I couldn't do both hands together, so I gave it up.
Yes, same.
But I think that connection kind of is the reason why they chucked me in.
Wow.
Yeah, I think so.
But we had another connection, obviously, through church and stuff. So that was kind of, that was nice to kind of do lots of different stuff together and lots of productions.
I know. And from day dot, we've always looked up to you, Zoe. Always.
I'm so old.
Not at all. No. I think we all feel old now, to be honest.
I know.
But I think as well, whenever we were at stage school, you were very much part of that group, even though you were probably one of the younger ones. Like, you were the older group and we were like the new ones coming in.
Yeah,
so you probably were, we maybe thought you were maybe the same age as like Victoria when you weren't, but we just were like, oh, these are all like really old and we're like really young and we just look up to you. So yeah, it's funny, like it's only as you get older you realise, you're only a few years older than us, but at the time that seemed
when you're younger it feels
10.
such a big gap, doesn't it?
And look at you now. So you're currently in Mean Girls, but prior to that, your CV is mental. Like, I didn't write everything down because it would take my whole notebook, but you've been in Jekyll and Hyde, Woman in White, Guys and Dolls. Now I am leaving a few out, so if they're not all here, don't worry. Parade, Gigi, Hairspray, Wicked, Anything Goes. Then you were in Romeo and Juliet with Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah, we did Winter's Tale and Romeo and Juliet within a season.
And then more up to date, The Wicker Husband. Was that what you were doing when COVID then hit?
Yeah, so we had our opening night that Monday night that the whole of the West End shut down. And because everybody had already travelled to the Watermill, the artistic director just said, do you just want us to continue with the production? And everybody agreed and said yes.
Yeah.
So we had our performance and then the world.
So you had one performance?
No, we'd had a couple of previews, but that was kind of press night.
Yeah.
And then the world shut down.
Went mad for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then not only your stage work, but you've been in the films away. As Belle's dying mother. I was like, how could they kill her? In Walt Disney's motion picture.
Yeah.
And Cinderella.
Yeah.
And then I didn't realise until I was stalking you Wikipedia wise. You were in Death on the Nile.
Yes, as a dancer. So basically, the choreographer Rob Ashford, who I've worked with a lot as a director and choreographer, he did Cinderella and Death on the Nile because he also co-directed Winter's Tale with the Branagh season and stuff. So Kenneth Branagh and him would do a lot of stuff together. Yeah. So that was how that kind of worked out.
See, and Sherlock Holmes.
I did do Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Holmes.
That was gorgeous. And that was technically how I got Beauty and the Beast in many ways, because Bill Condon directed both.
Okay.
So he had kind of known I had a musical background. Okay. So when Beauty and the Beast came around, he was...
See, I haven't watched either of them. I'm going to have to go home.
With Mr. Holmes, you only have to watch the first 2 minutes, I think.
Days.
It is a gorgeous film, though. Ian McKellen is, of course, gorgeous in it. So and Laura Linney as well.
But it's safe to say you've been busy then?
Yes, a little bit. Yeah.
A little bit busy. Brilliant. What do you enjoy most about musical theatre then? Why is this what you do?
So number one, the first part of that is the live theatre aspect of it, where you get to share an experience with everybody together. So it only happens once in the same way. Like, for example, tonight we've got a second cover on, which makes live theatre just so much more different, and every night is very different, even though it's exactly the same. And just musicals, there's just something about music for me personally that can just create such emotion and help me to feel much more than any other genre. And I think when you get it right, whether it be a jukebox or whether it be some kind of high-end theatre, it just absolutely changes you in that moment. And I think there's nothing like it.
Okay. So would you say your theatre work is your preferred?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I haven't done enough TV and film to compare them, really. But I love the theatre.
Yeah. Yeah. Who doesn't love the theatre?
I know. I don't understand. But then I'm currently watching the Olympics being that's not a sport. That's not a sport. And then somebody's like, but that's not a musical. Like, do you know what I mean? It's just really interesting whenever you have one passion.
And also, like, when the Euros was on, I was like, why is this taking over our television? Yeah. I don't want to watch this. And then I go, oh, this is how those people feel.
Yes.
when I talk about a musical, and they're like, really nice.
Yeah, but musicals are the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we still don't have the full Oliviers on TV, and we don't get to see the Tonys.
I know. One day we'll get there.
Needs to sort that out. We've already mentioned briefly Stage School, but when did you first get involved in musical theatre then?
So 7.
7.
Yeah, so...
and it was Stage School, was it?
Yeah, I can't remember the order, but it definitely was around the time of Bangor Operatic Society were casting Hansel and Gretel, and it was their Christmas pantomime, and Victoria went over to audition. And then I was there, so I auditioned too, and I got Christopher Logan got Hansel, and I got Gretel. So
cute, what a pair!
There's an outrageous video that exists of me pushing him off stage because he forgot a line or something. Like off into the wings, not off stage. But yes, so it's kind of, I love that we both kind of ended up going into the industry. So I don't know whether I'd already just started Stage School or whether that was the kind of beginning of it. And thankfully, Mum somehow discovered that McMaster's existed, and we got to go, and that was that. Like 7 until 18 every Saturday with McKFC,
Yeah, absolutely. And you're no different because you were home.
I know, we did that
a couple of months ago. And in you came with your KFC. I was like, oh,
yeah, can't do a Saturday.
But McMaster's, there's something special about it. I think especially whenever we were there, and the guidance and the support that we had from Sharon and Vivian and everybody, it's really hard to explain to people like how we were taught and how we were supported, and what skills and tools they gave us, which not only help you go into professional musical theatre, but have helped us in loads of different ways.
As a person.
And it was just a wonderful time. So CJ was fortunate enough to be an urchin and Chitty there when it came to Belfast. So,
wow.
And the 8 of them on stage were phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it was just that McMaster spark. And it lives through like the next generation. And it was so like they were amazing.
It was excellent. Yeah.
I can't really imagine what life would have been without it. And I get quite emotional actually because we were so freaking lucky to have that opportunity. And I think also like at the time that we went, we also got the opportunity to come over to London because Vivian Jr. lived here, and we performed with her at the Players Theatre, which is now called the Charing Cross Theatre. And we kind of went all over and did stuff like in Ballina. We used to do like trips away, and I think that really bonded us as well. And we had like pantomime, obviously, we performed as the little babes, as they call
babes.
And the nursing homes.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I talk about that all
the nursing homes,
the
like
time.
how many nursing homes were we at a week? And it was like an Oklahoma melody. We've talked about this before in our little dance trip, but My Fair Lady, the Pearly, the Irish, the 40s, like all of this stuff. They would like, I think until my dying day, I will know those songs and know those dance routines because we were out at another nursing home.
Yeah.
You know?
As long as you don't ask me to do the Irish routine, because I do not think I would have the lung capacity for that anymore.
I know, it's true. But like I talk about that all the time. Like how many, and we were doing it up until like late teens, would go on a Friday night to a nursing home and have orange juice and not be on the park having cider or whatever, you know, like how grateful that I had that passion, because I think that's possibly what leads to those sorts of things. You know, I was able to put my focus into to those sorts of areas. I loved it.
So when did you know then that you wanted to pursue this as a career?
I think in reality, maybe early on when there used to be a TV show called The Biz that was set in...
Sorry, Zoe.
I know, and that's how old I am. I told you I was older. It had Paul Nicholas, who's really gorgeous, and a couple of other, Paul Nichols, because Paul Nicholas was, anyway, we'll go in, divert. And they basically were training, so they were at Italia Conti College, and it was a drama about their life, so it wasn't real, it wasn't a documentary or anything, but I used to watch that and be like, I want to live in London. And when I was younger, again, another opportunity that came up through McMaster's, because Stanley, Vivian's son, was working there. We went to the Italia Conti summer schools, so we got a taste of how it felt to live in London. And so I think from then, I was about 11 when we started doing that. That was when I was like, I really want to do this.
Yeah.
And then I got to 16 and Mum said, just do your A-levels, something to fall back on. And then I got to 18 and I was like, that's it.
Mum.
I know. And do you know what? I'm glad we did, because I've got, you know, so many gorgeous memories, and I think I would have been way too young to come to London at that age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you came to London at 18 and you went to
Arts Ed.
And how did you find 3 years?
Yeah.
How did you find that 3 years of intensive training, having come from Northern Ireland, I suppose? Yeah,
so I auditioned for a couple of stage schools, and I chose Arts Ed mostly because the atmosphere there was so... It just seemed like I saw friends who are now friends leaping down the corridor, and I was just like, Chiswick is such a lovely area to be in. So coming to London was quite scary, but I got really lucky because, again, Vivian Jr. lived very close to Arts Ed, and she and Sean were so good. And I will forever be grateful to them because they let me live with them in the first year. And I honestly don't think I would have come back after Christmas if I didn't have them to live with, because... That kind of home, I suppose, or home away from home. Yeah, they looked after me so well. I call them my London mum and dad. Yeah. And I just, you know, honestly, I don't think I could have done it, because you go home for Christmas and you get settled back at home. And I remember crying on the return and just being like, I don't want to go back. And it was just fear. Yeah. But knowing that I had Vivian and Sean, it just made it possible. Yeah. So yeah, that's what happened. I went over, and the 3 years, it's intense. But I tell you what, I was late pretty much every day for school. No. Oh, right, okay. I was like, Zoe. Glenlola. This is a little known fact about Zoe Rainey, maybe by people who don't come from Northern Ireland, is that I was in detention quite a few months because I was always late for school. But I was never, ever late for Arts Ed because it was something I really wanted to do. And there's something about like this profession that just, I'm like, I'll show up early and then my costume by the quarter, you know, I'm like, ready, let's go.
So you've never been late again then? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, no, I think there's only once, and I think about it a lot. And it was the trains. Come on, you live in London. It was the tubes.
That's fair. And you've come in extra early today for us, so we really appreciate it. So what was your first professional job then after training?
That was Jekyll and Hyde.
And that was a UK tour, wasn't it?
Yes, I came to Belfast.
You.
Yeah.
It was a big, like, night out.
It was so, I love that. I love that about being in Belfast. And I always love that every time I tour to Belfast, is that everybody comes and supports no matter what. I just love it.
I was going to ask, actually, what's it like visiting like your hometown venue on a tour compared to others?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Love the catchy tunes and insightful discussions on Musical Lyrical Lingo? Why would you not? Now you can reap your fandom. Ooh, we've got fans. And show off your love of all things musical theatre with our exclusive merchandise. Ooh.
From comfy tees,
T-shirts,
mugs to stylish tote bags, we have something for every fan. Our designs are inspired by the show's iconic themes.
Because we are so iconic.
And featured playful quotes, alpha, ba, and graphics that will have you humming along.
I will never work again.
Wherever you go.
So head over to our merch store now and start shopping. Spend your money, people. And don't forget to share your pics on our social media using #podcast Musical Lyrical Lingo merch. We love to see our fans rocking our gear.
Yes, we do. Happy shopping.
It's the best. I mean, obviously where we live at home is like a half-hour drive. Yeah. So it's a bit different in that way, where you don't see the cast as much. But what I love is that you get to see people come after the show, and you know, just being at home is just really lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you feel a different response?
I mean, not on stage necessarily. Okay. The Belfast audience are always so warm anyway, but it's more that just knowing people are in. Like, I've gotten really emotional recently, and then maybe it's because, you know, I've had the pandemic and then I had my daughter, so it's really been 4 years pretty much since I've done 8 shows a week. And so I get really emotional when people come to watch, because I just think that's so lovely. Like, you guys don't have to be here.
Oh, but we want to be here. Like,
you know, and I just think it's just so nice to have that support. And I do think that is what is so unique about what we have back home, is that people do want to cheer us on and see us do good.
Well, I think even still, the idea of someone from back home who is over here pursuing their dream, doing what they want to do within this profession, is something that I don't like. Of course, we should always, you know, triumph people like that, but I don't know. It just seems to be. Is it a bit harder coming from Northern Ireland than being here? So when I see people like you or Christopher Logan or Molly Logan doing really well, it's like, they're from home and look at them, they're like amazing.
Same, and even extending past people from Bangor and Donegal, you know, like anybody from Northern Ireland, when I see that they've done well, I think there is something in that. It does feel a little bit harder to come across the water, and, you know, and just the opportunities are maybe slightly less there, or I don't know, just the proximity of it is it takes more effort to do it. So seeing that people have done it and succeeded is just lovely.
Yeah, it's great.
I think it definitely is that there's less opportunity. There's so many like stage school now and drama clubs and Amdram and things like that, but there's not that professional training where, you know, a couple of people that we have spoken to have said that they were able to do like a lots of workshops, you know, with like professional people where they lived in England and Scotland or Wales or something like that, and those opportunities never really were coming about whenever we were teenagers, like somebody would come over for a day and you would get to do a workshop.
I did one with Wayne Sleep.
Yes, me too.
Did you do the cats one?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
How did I miss that?
I don't know. Where were you?
Yeah.
It was outrageous. Yeah. But things like that were very rare.
Yeah, very rare.
Yeah, they did happen.
Yeah, I remember that. I think I was in like the Cirque building or something. It was like
up in Belfast.
Yeah, it was like odd. But yeah.
I'm absolutely livid that I missed that.
Let's recreate
Where was
it.
I?
Oh dear.
Oh, that's so annoying.
Probably to do something fabulous though.
Well, I don't know. You've done your fair bit of touring, particularly early days, didn't you?
Yeah.
How did you find that experience of touring, like around the country?
There's like pros and cons. So in this country, which is very different to America, you have to find your own digs. You have to find your own kind of, your own accommodation, get yourself there, all that kind of stuff. And they pay you subsistence to do that. But
that just seems mental. Like, no, we've discussed this before with like Frances, who's doing Jesus Christ Superstar at the moment. And we did speak about it with Jen and Ali. But I mean, that's what other job makes you do your travel and your accommodation?
Yeah, and you can,
in order to do your job.
I know.
It's mad.
I know. And you rock up at Granny Annie's flat and, either they say, oh no, you can't use the kitchen, or, there's just so many random, like I had one where I had to bolt the door from the inside because the cat would headbutt the door to get in. Like it was just, or, there's one I had to move out of the next day because it was just so terrifying, like just the feeling. And you just think, two young girls showing up at a random person's house, that shouldn't really have to be the case. There should be a sense of safety and and I think also people then took advantage of, they found out what the subsistence was, so they upped the prices, so it was really, it's difficult in that way. However, the joy of touring is that you really get to know your company because there's nothing else to do but hang out together, which is so lovely. And so you get really close with people and you have a lot of fun and, you spend a lot of social time, or you can see all these parts of the UK that you wouldn't normally kind of get to see.
Yeah. So what was your West End debut then?
Woman in White.
Woman in White.
Yeah, which weirdly was with the same producer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I only kind of, as Mean Girls.
Yes.
So it was Sonia Friedman's one of her first.
Okay.
Because Maria Friedman is her sister, and they, that was one of her first.
And was that with Michael Ball then?
So I did it with, who did we have? So Michael, oh my gosh, he's the one from Barnum. Michael Crawford started it. Then Michael Ball took over.
Right.
But then the next year it was Simon Callow and Anthony Andrews.
Yeah. Okay.
And then David Burt. Yeah, I think that was my three Foscos.
And I came to see you in that.
Did you?
With Vivian Jr.
Oh yeah.
And that was the time that I was living in London and funny hating it. And I got to Christmas and I went home.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So but like that worked out fine.
Yes, I know.
But,
I know it always works.
Look at her now, she's doing a podcast.
Yeah.
That's really funny because at the dinner after seeing you, or before seeing you, Vivian Jr. said to me, "You are so miserable. I wish you could come and stay with me, but it's too far away." Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, so it was just lovely hearing that." That's actually,
that's just giving me goosebumps.
Yeah, that was really nice. But Women in White is one of those. I have about 6 musicals which I can't. They make me feel icky because I don't like scary things, and I already didn't sleep because I wasn't enjoying being in London.
No.
And I think I slept for like 3 days.
So it's
after
my fault you didn't go back after
Christmas.
Christmas.
Fault because you were wonderful, and I just had to keep going. It's a performance.
No, that's horrible.
But the only reason I seen it was because you were in it. But if you weren't in it, there's no way I would have seen it.
Because it's not Woman in Black.
No,
so it's not that as
but
scary.
I don't like
but
anything.
No, I know.
I'm just a Disney and musical theatre fan. I do not watch anything spooky.
Although watching stuff with Amelia, I'm like, oh my gosh, Disney's scary.
Yeah.
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 And sad.
Yes.
But I like, the fun, glittery
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, exactly.
Like Hercules.
Well, hopefully you were having fun at that point in time in your career.
Yeah, I mean, and also now and forever, I think the Palace is always going to be in my head as like one of my favourite theatres because it just has that memories. But during tech of that was the 7/7 bombings, actually.
Right.
So it was quite an interesting time to be in London. And yeah, it was. We still went into work that day. Because we didn't really know what was happening when you lived there. It was like we kind of got up and was like, I have to get to work. And everybody else on the bus was like, we've got to go home.
Yeah.
And so we made it in, and about 10 of us made it in for tech. And then at about 3 o'clock they said, right, anybody walking back to West London, you're leaving now. And we all walked through London together, and it was actually quite an uplifting experience because everybody was like, you okay? That kind of camaraderie.
There was a real kindness that appeared from nowhere.
That kind of post-war feeling almost.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a side note.
So after that, was that when you...
Guys and Dolls was immediately after that.
Oh, UK tour with the lovely Nigel Harman.
Yes, the lovely Nigel Harman.
I think we followed you to Birmingham to see that.
I went on with him.
Sure.
I went in Birmingham, so I don't know whether you would have seen me go on.
Yes, we did.
Did you?
Yeah. So you were understudy Sarah, weren't you? Yeah, because we saw you play Sarah.
There we go.
And that was all just by chance because we were always coming to see you in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we arrived in Birmingham... I don't know, somebody had told us, and it was like, oh my goodness, we're going to see her as Sarah.
So
what a great show, though.
Oh my gosh. It was great. And that was where I first met Jamie Lloyd and Rob Ashford, who became two of the most kind of influential directors and choreographers in my career, really, because they gave me opportunities in plays and Shakespeare and stuff that really I wouldn't have had as musical theatre on my CV. So that really shifted everything working with them.
Amazing. So when did Hairspray come along then?
So I then did Parade after Guys and Dolls.
Well, then let's talk about Parade.
Oh, okay, because Hairspray comes directly after that.
Because I can't remember what age I was when Parade came about.
It was 2007, I think.
Oh, don't ask me to
do the math.
Yeah, we would have been about 20.
Yeah. But I just remember this mad buzz around your production of Parade. Why was that? Why was it such, everybody was talking about it.
Yeah.
It was splashed across all the websites. It was just massive.
Yeah. It was massive, considering it was in one of the smallest theatres in London, in the Donmar, which is maybe, was it 300 seats or something? So that also may have kind of created a kind of, people wanted more tickets. Okay. So scarcity of tickets, and it was a short run. However, you put together the brilliant music of Jason Robert Brown. It was Rob Ashford's directorial debut. We had Bertie Carvel, his musical debut. We had Mark Bonner. We had people, we had Shauna Scoffrey, who had never acted before. We had Lara Pulver, who's just stunning. So we had everybody within the company was in some way doing something they'd never done before.
Yeah.
And the story, the music.
Yeah.
I think there's just nothing like it. And it just became this most incredible experience, and everybody loved it. And again, that changed my career, because every audition I went into after that wanted to talk about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. They saw it on your CV and went, ooh.
They loved the show. Therefore, they kind of, wanted to see me for other things. Yeah.
I remember it was one of the musical soundtracks that got me through my degree at Queen's, because I remember sitting in Queen's library doing whatever I was doing with you in my wee earphones, your cast recording.
That's funny, actually. One of the guys, because I am, again, very old in this company. The gap between myself and the next youngest person is 10 years.
Okay.
And then it goes down to graduates. So there's 20 years between me and the youngest. And there's one guy, Akko is the only other kind of older character with me. But one of the guys in the company was singing it, and I was like, oh, I was in that. He goes, what? He goes, what? Oh my God, I used to listen to that album all the time. So yeah, it was kind of nice to know that.
A very emotional show. How do you get through shows like that, 8 shows a week? Because it's intense.
It is intense.
Even to listen to it, even if you didn't see it, but then to be part of it, and the part you were playing, like you were one of the factory girls, weren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did you get through that 8 shows a week?
Again, we had like a really good bunch. So before the show, we would all go into the boys' dressing room, because in the Donmar there's only 2 dressing rooms. There's one for the girls, one for the boys. We all went into the boys' dressing room at beginners or just before beginners, and we all huddled around and sang Amazing Grace together.
Gonna cry.
I know, it was really, I mean, the only person who didn't do it was Bertie, because he was like the New Yorker, the outsider. So that was kind of fun, and we just were very close, and we had a really good time off stage. I love intense shows. I kind of, it gets me going. But now actually I'm loving being in something fun.
Okay.
Because the world seems so heavy.
Is it the heaviness you like? Because then that's like disassociate with real life. So you
Maybe,
feel like you're jumping into something. So it's completely different. So you can go, that's work.
Yeah.
And then I come out of it and the world isn't so heavy. Well, now maybe life's a bit.
Exactly. I don't know if I can go that deep anymore. Yeah.
Being a mum, you realise how the world is, and then you're like, okay, it's nice to go and do something fun and uplifting, and then just a bit of bit of crack.
A bit of crack, exactly that.
Yeah.
On our podcast is all about what musicals have taught us. Is there anything that you learned from doing that show? Is there like a takeaway, something?
I think probably maybe not what you're expecting, but the fact that all of us were doing something new. Like, for example, it was Rob's directorial debut. And we all felt a little bit like we were all learning. So it felt like we were all on a level playing field, and there was there was no egos, there was no, and I try to bring that in every job. I'm like, we're all like uncomfortable in some way, and if someone's acting up, it's probably because they're feeling really, really uncomfortable and nervous. So I think that probably taught me that we're all in it together. Yeah. Like from the top all the way down, we're all feeling some sense of like learning and uncertainty, and so it's a team, which I love about theatre. Yeah.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah, it does.
As they said in Chitty. No, we're not singing anymore. No. I can't stand Chitty as a show.
Oh, really?
Honest to goodness.
I think it's great. And then we had to go and see it. And we have done a whole episode on Chitty. And then obviously the kids were asked to be part of it. And then Timothy was in charge of making sure they were dancing correctly. And
so you did the podcast before this? It wasn't
a long time before. Yeah. And then it arrived at Stage School's doorstep. Can you supply the kids? And I was like, Chitty, come on. Anyway, can we move on to Hairspray? Because it's one of the ones I remember coming to see you in and being like, that's my friend Zoe. Yeah. Now, Zoe, you're probably one of the nicest people I know, right? Mm-hmm. How on earth did you end up getting cast as Amber Von Tussle in Hairspray?
But how good was Zoe as that part?
Unbelievable.
Officially, the first year that it was casting, so I did the second year.
Yes,
I auditioned first time round alongside Parade. So they actually offered me first cover Penny the first time round. And then I did Parade, and then I went back and auditioned for the next cast. And for whatever reason, they just, I think vocally I'm more of an Amber. Okay. Because I'm really grateful I didn't get first cover Penny because there's quite a high belt. Yeah. Okay. And my friend Verity and Ellie Collette and all those people, like they can just sing that sort of stuff so easy. Whereas for me, I think it would have been quite a challenge. So Amber probably vocally is better for me. Okay. And I had a lot of fun.
I was going to say, did you enjoy being mean?
Yeah. I know, and it reminds me a lot of Mean Girls, actually. Okay. With it's just the kind of energy, the kind of the audience's reactions and stuff. It's a really fun feel. Like but with Hairspray maybe had a bit of a heavier message to send home, you know, like, which was really important. And we also did it around the time Obama became president. So that was kind of fabulous. But yeah, it's got that same kind of, let's just send people home very happy. Yeah. And I loved it. I did. And I feel like Mrs. George maybe is Amber grown up.
Okay. Can't wait to see that, Zoe. Cannot wait to see that.
I don't know if you'll agree.
Another biggie you've done is wicked, and that was another pinch me moment for for us at home, going, oh, she's been cast in Wicked. But that again is quite heavy. Like, you don't realise, you're thinking, oh, Wicked, all emerald and sparkly, but you played Nessa Rose, didn't you?
Yeah.
And understudy, first cover,
well, technically first cover, but there was an alternate, so second cover, Glinda got on 3 times.
I was going to say, and how was that?
It was great. Like, I would have hated to have finished the contract and not had a chance to go on, and so that was brilliant. But I did love Nessa. I'd auditioned for that show, like, I think I got in, what year did I do it? Like maybe the 7th year or something. Anyway, I'd auditioned for a lot, for many, many years, and I finally got it. So I was like delighted.
Yeah.
And it is heavy, I guess. I had Rachel there with me, which was fun. And I did say at one point, should Elphaba and Nessa be from Northern Ireland?
You're talking about Rachel Tucker, of course.
Yes, I am talking about Rachel Tucker. And obviously, people who may have watched this or listened to this they know Tuckman, which means Louise Dearman and Rachel Tucker were in it together. So, and Louise and I lived together during that period, and just like on and off before, because I'd worked with Louise 3 times. I did Guys and Dolls and my first ever job, Jekyll and Hyde, with her. So there was lots of kind of lovely parts to that show that kind of felt like home, really.
And we worked with Louise.
Did you?
In Joseph. She was our narrator.
Gosh. Way back when?
Way back then.
Oh my gosh, way back.
Many centuries ago.
Yeah. How weird that everybody
is so
like,
weird.
okay, we've really done like...
I doubt she'll remember us, though.
That is amazing.
How funny that there's those connections.
I love that. That's so fun.
You have been like first cover or understudy quite a few times, haven't you? What is that like? Like, you're talking about tonight.
Yes.
You know, a second cover's going on. Like, what is it like being that person who is understudy or first cover or, you know?
It's brilliant and terrifying at the same time, I think, I would say.
Okay.
Because you get to go on and show people what you can do.
Yeah.
Without the kind of pressure of it being yours or you having to come up with the ideas and stuff. And also, I think sometimes when you watch something from the outside, you can see maybe moments that could work a bit better or whatever, which when you're in it, you can't. You don't have the distance to see it. So you can maybe add a little bit of extra something sometimes, which is fun. But that last minute kind of never know if you're going to go on thing is it's a lot.
Yeah.
And it was fine when I obviously didn't have my daughter or like any other kind of responsibilities, because you could just kind of be ready.
Yeah.
But the idea scares me nowadays that you'd just be like thrown on.
As you get older, is it more scary? That idea?
Probably that too, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I think also like depends on the part, and I'm one of those understudies that like I'll be ready to go on first preview in terms of I'll have learned it. I'll have really clocked the blocking.
Yeah.
If I need to, like during that time I said in Women in White on 7/7, I was able to go on during tech because the girl who played Al Silver couldn't make it in because she was on the Piccadilly line. So I went on and did tech in front of Trevor Nunn, and you know, like it was opportunities like that kind of feel kind of fun. Didn't lead to anything, but you know, it was just nice to be able to go, I can do this. This is my job. And I know some people really like to be told what to do during cover rehearsals, and they come in with nothing, and I'm like, you could go on tonight.
What are you doing?
Yeah, that kind of thing. I wouldn't ever want to make myself be in that position because I'd be terrified. Whereas some people can manage that kind of
that pressure.
Yeah, not for me.
How much notice did you get when you went on for Glinda for the first time?
Good question. It was a Friday. I think it was a Friday night and a 2 Saturday. So I reckon it was just like during the day on the Friday. But then I know
Still would have had a heart attack.
And I knew Louise, so I probably would have maybe known if she wasn't feeling very well or something. Yeah. But I had also just auditioned to basically every time you finish a contract, you get asked, would you stay? And I even though I knew I probably wasn't going to get Glinda, you're like, well, I'll only stay if I get Glinda. Yeah. Because you're like, well, I might as well see what happens. So they just told me in the auditions that I wasn't right for Glinda. Oh. And then couple of days later, I had to go on.
Ta-da!
So there was a little bit of
Try bursting my bubble.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, speaking of bubble as well, there's a height thing with the bubble. I don't know if you know this.
No.
So I'm at the top end of the height for the bubble, because originally Ellie Collette, who I mentioned with Hairspray, she was the original first cover, Glinda.
Right.
But when they got to the show and the rehearsals, she was too tall. So they had to take a cover off her.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, which was one of the main, obviously, points of taking the job for her.
Oh
so
no.
Yeah.
That's so devastating.
Yeah,
I know.
And here, when you were Nessa Rose, did your chair ever malfunction?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, Zoe.
Well, so with Nessa Rose, I don't think I'm spoiling any magic to know that it's remote controlled.
I mean, anybody who sees the show surely will know.
Yeah, hopefully.
Unless it's magic. Maybe it's magic. You never know. Remote control stroke magic.
Yeah. So, and there's a switch. So you have to switch the switch on for them to be able to remote control it from the wing.
Okay.
And you can flick it off to then be able to use it just as a normal wheelchair.
Yeah.
And one night I flicked it and they were doing the remote control spin thing and I could see the end of the stage coming. So I just panicked, took it into my own control and spun it and did it myself.
Yeah.
So that was the only time it ever happened. It was quite terrifying.
Quick thinking though. Or you'd have been in the pit.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I over panicked. I don't know, but when you see,
Not so sure.
when you can see the MD getting closer, you're like, oh no, you.
No.
I'm just gonna. Yeah. So that was probably the only time that it really went badly wrong.
Very. That's not good. I was going to say very good, but at least quick thinking you got there.
It didn't end badly.
So Gillian and I came to see you in American in Paris.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think I've ever seen a show like American in Paris, but just because it was sublime. That's my favourite word.
It is.
It's a good word.
I love sublime. But it was so different too, in that you almost questioned, what am I watching? Is this a ballet? Is this a music? It was just so different. However, you probably had the least dancing to do.
Thank God.
Out of anybody.
Yeah.
So what was that like being in... It was also one of those shows that had come over from Broadway, was massive hype around it. What was it like being in that kind of...
It was amazing. Although I do have to say, since doing that show, I feel like I don't know if I can dance. You know, that kind of feeling of if I can't dance like them, I don't want to do.
No.
So you'll see tonight I get to do a little bit of dancing in this at the end.
Exciting.
But it's a very different style. But yeah, it was just watching them dance was glorious.
Yeah.
You know, all of them, ensemble, all of the roles, Robbie and Leanne and Ashley, it was just really special and it felt quite magical.
Was there a different feel to just the general day to day? Because were you surrounded by lots of non-MT kind of...
Yeah, so it was 50-50, I would say, from the ballet world and from the musical theatre world. So I, got myself those little boots that they wear.
Oh, wee booties.
You did a whole series
Oh
on
my gosh.
Learning Point, didn't you?
I
was fascinated.
So what did you do?
Mortified.
Mortified.
I learned how to go on point.
Oh, during the process of that show?
Yeah, you get 6 months into a show, you get a bit bored. You're kind of what can we do?
So you here, Leanne or Robbie, show me how to go.
Well, they were a wee bit busy.
Okay, fair.
But yeah, no, my friend Nikki Henschel in the show, she taught me how to go on point. And one of the other guys, Aaron, he's into videography and stuff like that. And he documented it. And we kind of showed just how difficult it is and how impressive it is, what these people put themselves through.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It really is. Yeah, so I got to do that, which was really fun. And just, yes, you're right. So a lot of the ballet world people had never spoken on stage before.
Okay, yeah.
So this was the first time they were ever basically finding their voice in terms of being on stage. So a couple of them I would maybe go through their stuff with them just so that they felt a bit more confident.
That's lovely, yeah.
Yeah, it was really lovely. And then you know, you learn stuff off everybody, don't you?
And then your points in that show stood out so much because they were so different to the rest of the show. Yeah, it's like, this is like MT time.
Yeah, let's pause for some MT. Yeah.
And beautiful songs. She had beautiful songs to sing.
He's my favourite. Gershwin is my absolute favourite. If I could choose one, probably that would be my favourite kind of genre, and just everything he writes is really for my voice.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of...
So it sits well.
Yeah, it just... the audition process was so enjoyable for that, because you didn't have to go in being like, no, there's that one note or whatever, you know, I just...
How are you with auditions in general? Are you somebody that will just go in and get on with it, or does it take like a lot of heavy breathing and psyching yourself up? Or
I think it definitely, I get nervous big time, and I analyze a lot and I overthink a lot. I try to prepare as much as I can to take that away from it, maybe.
Yeah.
But like I do. Weirdly, again, with Mean Girls, I find the audition process really enjoyable, because honestly, I didn't think I'd get it.
Yeah, I remember you telling me this.
So I was like, well, let's just go in and have a bit.
That was terrible.
Yeah, you know, I was just like, I'm not funny, so I might as well just.
And did you come out and then they called you back in?
Oh, for the final, yeah. So
and did they actually do something different?
They just got me to do the Ms. George scenes again, but just a little bit more for stage than camera.
Okay. Oh, okay.
He just wanted to make sure that there was enough energy, that, you know, because I think sometimes you don't know how much in a room, because it's not a theatre.
Yeah.
So you're like, how big do you want me to go in this room, or is it going to look too big? Yeah. So yeah, he just, thankfully, they got me back in to do the scene one more time.
And here we are.
Here we are.
I mean, your CV of musical theatre was just unbelievable. And then all of a sudden, you're cast in a play. And I was like, oh, so he's doing a play. So how did that come about? Was that a choice? Or was that a case of, that's come up and being put forward for that? Or
I think it's definitely probably a choice in terms of like I'd like to be seen for more stuff. But the first play, that I did, or first kind of notable play, would be the Restoration plays with Jamie Lloyd. So I went to the National Theatre and did that. And then he was doing another one immediately after at Bath. So that only came about because they needed singers for the chorus.
Okay.
And then I got an understudy, so it meant I got to kind of play that a couple of times. And that came through the relationship with Jamie Lloyd from Guys and Dolls. Okay. So again, it was just like, if I didn't have the kind of relationship with him in terms of having worked with him before, and if they didn't need singers and stuff for the chorus, then that wouldn't have worked out, but it did. Yeah.
And then the I'm calling it a two-hander, but the Kenneth Branagh plays, you did Romeo and Juliet and A Winter's Tale at the same time, was that right?
So we did Winter's Tale and oh my gosh, the Brown play. There's another play that we did with Zoe Wanamaker. So Judi Dench was in Winter's Tale, and we did half the week with that and then half the week with the other play.
What was that like, having two plays in your head?
Yeah, it was great for me, but I understudied in both as well, so I was remembering the understudy stuff as well. And then we did, so that was kind of over Christmas, and then they did a couple other plays, and then in April we came back to do Romeo and Juliet with Richard Madden. I was his mother, and Lily James.
And that was amazing.
Yeah, it was a good one, wasn't it?
Because they recorded that, didn't they? So I think I remember going to the cinema to see that.
Yeah, so you would have seen Richard Madden hadn't had broken his foot.
That's
poor
right.
thing.
Yeah.
He got his way through that filming. Yeah. And they filmed it in black and white. It was so gorgeous.
Yeah, it was class.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, really good.
And what's that like? Because that's obviously happened with American in Paris as well, when you know that live theatre is being filmed so that it can be broadcast to a lot more people, because we talk about this too, about theatre isn't always accessible. Coming from Northern Ireland, it's not always accessible. And we're very fortunate that we've been able to come over and do this, but it's been ages since I've, just being a mum, been able to take like some time apart to come and go to the West End. So do you like that side that live theatre can be filmed and more people can see it, or is it just, do you feel it takes a wee bit of the magic away from it?
No, I think I think it's a really great thing, and during the pandemic, obviously, then we had lots of fantastic theatre to be able to watch. Also, then I had my little girl, so getting to the theatre was really hard. So having the kind of possibility to go to the theatre was brilliant by just going to your living room. It's definitely, you have to watch it with an understanding that it is for this stage.
Yes,
there's a different performance that you get from if it was to be for a film than with it being for the stage. But I love it. I think it can still work really, really well. And with American in Paris was slightly different to the NT Live stuff that I'd done before, because we then did a couple of afternoons where we did steady cams and crane shots and stuff. So it added a little bit more depth to the filming, rather than just cross arch kind of 3 cameras or whatever. So it kind of definitely added a bit more magic.
And what is the difference between musical theatre and plays? Like, do you find
the singing, Timothy?
I know, but like, just
I know.
Is there?
You mean, or it's interesting actually, because you get
it's an interesting.
You get much more time on the kind of script and the kind of dissecting why you're maybe doing something, and you have more time to explore the scenes and stuff in a play, which is kind of fun. In a musical, obviously, there's so many aspects to be rehearsed, so you've got less time on everything, I guess. But I think, I don't know, what is the difference? It's hard to say, because the rehearsal process is probably very different, but actually the kind of feeling in the theatre is very similar. In that you still get your live reaction from the audience. You still have that kind of people having had enjoy it, hopefully, and being transformative and all that kind of stuff. A lot of plays that I have done have involved music. So I still think music is really important. Like, I don't know if you...
I think music within a play is really important. It helps emote, doesn't it? It's very emotive.
It really can take you into an emotion very, very quickly. But also, like, the difference between watching an American drama and a British drama back in the day, maybe it's slightly different now, but like, watching Doctors and watching something in America is that they add music. So they kind of can bring you to that, like Grey's Anatomy. Oh my gosh, their soundtrack used to always get me in tears before I even realized it, because they knew the power of music. So even though they were plays, there was still a soundtrack, I guess, to them.
Let's bring it right up to date and talk about what we're here for. First of all, you're a mummy. Now, how has that changed everything then? How do you balance being a mummy and, being back in the theatre again?
It is tough. Like, I'm sure even if you're not in the theatre, it's really tough to be a working parent. There's a lot of logistics to work through. We've got some really lovely nannies who come and help out and stuff like that. But it's definitely different. It's definitely a very, the world is set up for 9 to 5. So nurseries are 9 to 5. Everything kind of works like that. But if you go to work at 5 o'clock until 11:30, there's really nothing in. And I did call a nanny once, and she said, "You'll never get anybody to work those hours." Because they're so antisocial. And I was like, and I cried. And this is before I'd officially accepted the job. And I was like, I can't take the job. I don't know how this is done. And God bless Niamh Perry. And Laura Pitt-Pulford and Caroline Sheen, who actually was in this theatre before me, so she left me her dumbbells. But God bless women like that, because I was able to just say, how are you doing it? Like, and Niamh spent ages on the phone just talking through the process and like was really honest and said what's difficult, what she put in place, and gave me some advice. And we're just taking each day by day, really.
Yeah, because your husband's also in the biz, isn't he? Yeah. So it's not even as if it's one of you, both of you are involved.
Neve was in a similar position because her husband's in the band. I think Back to the Future he does. So they were similar. But yes, it is true. A lot of people maybe would take turns or whatever. Yeah. But I got into tech just at the same time Paul was teching babies.
Oh my goodness.
So, it was full on. Yeah. But we did it. And I think for anybody out there who's wondering if they can, I was very much of the thing of like, I don't know if I can go back. I need to look after my daughter. I need to be there for her. We've got a very kind of close relationship and she has quite a lot of separation anxiety. If I can do it, it can be done. Yeah. And there are ways of doing it. And also like it's kids, everybody kept saying to me, kids are adaptable, and they are.
They are.
But it does take a village.
It takes time.
Yeah. I think it's allowing those special people into your life to look after this precious being. Yeah. But also realizing that you're going out doing something so that you can be yourself again. That took a long time for me to realize that I need to go to work to feel like I'm Lauren, so that I'm not somebody's wife and not somebody's mum. And as much as I love those job roles, I also need to go and find me. Yeah. And you also need to find those little hobbies as well. Work can't just be that sort of thing, but it can't just be done. I think, this is a whole other podcast for a whole other day, is women feel like they have to manage it all and they can't. And they have to let people in, and it's okay to ask for that help and get that support, and then you can achieve it, together. And
I have to say, like, Paul has been incredible through it all because he's just really good at that kind of time management and kind of being able to. So he's just been like, we'll make it work, and that helps a lot because you just kind of go, all right, we'll make it work.
Let's do this. Yeah. So you're here and you're doing it. So. Who are you in Mean Girls? What parts do you play?
So not one, but 3.
Honest to goodness, Zoe, like what a comeback.
I know, right? Exactly. If I'm going to do something, I want to play all 3 roles. I'm playing the Tina Fey teacher role, Mrs. Norbury. I'm playing Mrs. George, who is the Amy Poehler genius role. And I'm playing Miss Heron, who is Katie's mum. And she is played in the film originally by Anna Gasteyer. So very it's good. The 3 SNL legends.
So, did you know that coming into audition?
Yes.
Okay, so you knew it was 3 parts. So what on earth is it like playing 3 different parts in the one show?
Well, I think what's interesting is I probably would play all 3 roles differently if they were the only role that I was doing. But because I'm doing all 3, they have to have a slightly different energy to them. So the voices have to be different, the kind of the way they come on, so there's a lot of elements that maybe have been heightened that I wouldn't have done if it was just the one character. So it's fun to do that. It's fun to do a lot of kind of crazy heightened stuff and play around. I don't do any consecutive scenes in the same character.
Oh my goodness. Do you ever get lost as to who you're supposed to be doing next?
No, but...
And don't jinx her.
No.
See if tonight's the night, so I will not be impressed.
I know. No, it's kind of weird. Once you put on the wig and the costume, there's a sense of like, oh, this is who I'm being.
So please tell me you have a team around you to help with the transformations from one to the next.
Yes, okay. I have a brilliant dresser and there's always one wig person with me. Okay. So they change throughout the show depending on who's available. But yeah, my dresser Ezra comes with me everywhere. And I just basically run at her and kind of strip and we get put into something else.
When you eventually leave this job, you'll be leaving with a split personality.
Yes. If I didn't already have one before, yes.
And like, does everything change? Like, obviously we're in your dressing room and I'm looking over and I see like your lipsticks and one says George. Like, does everything have to change between the 3?
Yeah. Ideally, if we had more time, yes. Okay. So when we first teched it, I had stick-on false nails for Ms. George. I put on eyelashes for her in the first scene. And then I do different lipsticks, different makeup. However, the transformations get quicker throughout the second act. And so I don't have time to put the nails on, so they cut them.
Okay.
Which is probably a blessing, I guess,
Yeah.
in some ways. But yeah, the gorgeous Georgia who did the makeup, she really had such brilliant ideas. There just wasn't the time for them.
Yeah.
And there's one, change that you'll see tonight that there really isn't any time.
How exciting!
So yeah, that kind of, I think the idea was to do much more kind of diverse between the three, but no.
That's what tech's all about, eh?
Yeah, exactly. And I tried my very hardest for it.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. We're in your dressing room. Is there like a certain like recipe or things that you need to have in your dressing room?
Yeah.
For you?
Yeah.
For things to tick?
Yeah, I mean, it gets to I'm trying not to be in any way reliant on things on this job, but the Jakemans have come with me.
Nice.
Yeah, they come every job, and I, especially in the early days, because I didn't have time to get off to have a sip of water before my song in Act 2. I was like, let's just have a Jakemans, get a little bit of, but yeah, now I'm less reliant on them.
Okay.
And there's like I'll always, like, I've got my mic tape there. I've got, this is a new thing for me. This is, what do they call it?
Steamer.
But it's cold air.
Oh.
Okay.
So you can talk immediately afterwards and you can sing immediately afterwards. So it's basically sealing, like salt water being kind of breathed in. So that's new to me. Ellie, my dressing room buddy, she uses it a lot. So I'm trying to get into the cool way.
All these new things that you're discovering.
Exactly. But yeah, I try not to be too like superstitious and stuff, but I do everything in the same order because I'm just like that.
Creature of habit, and there's nothing wrong with
Sure, why not? And I see, is that called the black stuff?
Yeah, so I call it pepper cow is what I call it.
Right, okay.
It's the Chinese stuff. It's an absolute game changer.
The number of professionals that I know that swear by it or won't do a job without it there.
When I did Parade, I lost my voice and I really had nothing, and I went on and did the full show after, just like by drinking that with hot water.
Like miracle.
Yeah, I mean, also Dr. Theatre and just like pure survival also helps. You're like, I just have to be able to sing it.
And you've got your wee bed here as well, just to have a wee lie down.
I'm old again, I'm old. And I've got a 2.5-year-old who doesn't always love to sleep through the night.
Fair enough.
Just between shows, even if I'm not actually sleeping, sometimes it's nice to lie down and watch a little something and just have a little downtime.
Reset.
Yeah, a wee bit.
And was this always... Because this is a bit like your comeback, really, in that you've had your wee girl. Also, COVID played havoc with the industry for years. Was this something you knew was coming and you were like, I fancy a bit of that? Or is it just as things have planned?
It honestly feels like meant to be because it wasn't on my radar. When I got the material, I was like, oh my God, I don't think I'm good enough for this. Like, I don't think I can do it.
So you always think that.
I know, maybe that's the thing.
Regardless of what it is.
Yeah, maybe that's the problem. But yeah, so I kind of was like, let's just go in for it. Say yes to everything until you have to worry about it. So no, it wasn't on my radar in terms of thinking that I would be up for it. Also, I'd actually missed, like, they didn't call me in the very first time.
Okay.
They did a whole round and they didn't find anybody, so they cast the net a bit wider. And I think they'd maybe assumed I wouldn't want to do it, so they then asked the second time to check, and then it all worked out.
Yeah,
so
lovely.
Honestly, I don't know how, but I'm glad it did.
You're doing great.
Able not to cast you.
Yeah, exactly. My granny used to say that, and I think more so than ever. I think before COVID, I probably really tried to plan things, and I'm like, if I get this and if I get this, and then I never got either or whatever, so I'm just like, anything can happen, just go with it and do your best along the way.
And how long was the rehearsal process for this?
4 weeks,
which is just insane.
We did hit the ground running very, very fast. It was the first time, I would say, that there was very much a feeling of you need to know the script before you get into the rehearsal, because normally you would do the first kind of blocking of it with the script in your hand and you'd kind of feel your way through it, but we just didn't have the time. So you wanted to, and also you'll hear tonight, the dialogue is really fast and it's really Tina Fey, like really SNL, sketchy, you know, you're on, you're off. There's no time to think. There's no time to, so it really, in order to get the pace up and to keep the kind of energy, you needed to know your stuff.
And have you met her?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, she's lovely. I wish in some ways we'd got to kind of work with her a little bit more on it, but because it's a reboot, she was very much part of the kind of restructuring and the kind of writing new lines and all that kind of stuff, but physically being there, she was obviously very busy. So we saw her a couple of times and she's gorgeous, and she's just was in rehearsals like handing out jokes as if it was normal to be able to come up with 3 or 4 options, you know, whereas all of us would be struggling to get one. She's very funny, and her husband is very funny. He wrote the music, Jeff Richmond. Very, very funny bones as well. And Nell Benjamin, obviously Legally Blonde, wrote the lyrics. So it was a really good team. And Casey Nicola. Casey Nicola, have you seen Book of Mormon? And he's bringing Hercules. You spoke about that earlier. He's bringing that here next year. So yeah, it's been a real
great team.
Yeah, a real one. Nice to come back to.
Good.
Yeah.
So you're enjoying yourself then?
Very much, and I hope you enjoy yourselves tonight. More importantly.
Cannot wait. With a show like this, there's quite a lot of hype, isn't there, because of the film? And do you feel that? Like, do you feel that from the audience? Is Stage Door a bit nuts? Or
there's always like quite a few people at Stage Door afterwards, which is lovely, and you get to meet people. They're obviously less. They want to talk to the plastics and Katie and all those kind of fun characters, but they are really lovely. And yes, the audience, so because they know it so well, they'll shout out the kind of known lines and really cheer for ones that they hear that they are waiting for. So yeah, it's been really nice in that way.
Excellent. Is there anything out there like for the future? Is there any part or show out there that you would love to have a go at?
I'm sure there is. And I mean, there's a load, like obviously Norma Desmond was when it came back, I was like, oh my gosh. That's one of my favourite scores of his actually. But I don't think that would be a anytime soon kind of thing for me. But I don't know. There's loads of gorgeous, gorgeous shows around, but also what I love is the ones that are new, and that you get to kind of explore something for the
and there
first
seems
time.
to be quite a lot of new musicals popping up at the moment.
It feels like people are taking chances again after the pandemic. And Paul, my husband, he works a lot on new musical stuff, and he's got some really fun things coming up, like Why Am I So Single by the 6 composers. And so it's like there's some really cool stuff being made, and I think maybe the next thing's not even been written yet for me. I don't know.
You never know. That is exciting to think that, isn't it? Like, it's just not out there.
Oh, Zoe, thank you so much.
Thank you for coming in.
Taking the time, because you obviously need to prep and all that stuff, but we really, really appreciate you remembering us and wanting to speak to us.
and we need 4 hours for our photo shoot now, isn't that right?
Yes. I know I should have dressed up.
Not at all. We should have dressed. I'm soggy. It's been wet in London today.
Let us down today.
Also, I don't know if you know, but Janice and is the role I should be playing in Mean Girls.
And Damien.
Yes, of course.
Like,
oh my gosh, you would be perfect.
Play that role. So let him know
if he didn't come. You know.
Oh my gosh, next year the
if
recast.
He's feeling a bit dodged, just tell him I know.
Because his first cover's off.
What?
So,
Get me in. I'll take notes tonight. I'll be ready by tomorrow.
Yes. You'd be great. Oh, I'd like to see that.
I don't know who could do your role though. 3 in 1. Let me tell you.
Maybe. So you just come to Bangor and we'll do a 3-person Mean Girls.
Take 1 role each.
Oh my gosh. I want you guys to record Cautionary Tale for me after tonight.
Okay.
I want to hear it.
We'll do that.
Is there, out of the 3 parts you're playing, a favourite? Or do you love them all equally? Are you going to give that kind of answer?
No, look, I love the teacher because she's most like me. You know, I kind of tried to neutralise her so that the other 2 could go a bit wild. But Ms. George, she's just outrageous.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And to finish us off, do you have a favourite line?
Oh gosh.
Sorry, I've put you on the spot there.
I mean, obviously saying I'm not a regular mom.
Yeah.
It's fun. We'll go with that one for now.
Love it.
Well, Zoe, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
and
you.
hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Yes.
On that next role that hasn't even been written for you yet.
Write it for me. You do it.
But until then, thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.